BettrMMA is back. As you can see by the title, today we are talking about where does Colby Covington exactly go from here in his career, and if Colby Covington actually does have a path to redemption in his career. I want to talk about possible next matchups for him, and we have to beg the question, was Colby Covington ever truly that good? Since beating Robbie Lawler, Colby Covington has gone 2-3 in his last 5 fights. And when you look at the wins, it's over an out of his prime Tyron Woodley, technically via a rib injury. Colby was working Tyron in that fight, so I'll give him credit for the TKO. So I'll give him the credit for dominating an out of his prime Tyron Woodley. On the other hand, Jorge Masvidal, we already knew going into this fight that Colby Covington was going to ragdoll Jorge, because Colby Covington was essentially Jorge Masvidal's wrestling trainer and wrestling partner for their entire UFC come up together. And it's well documented and it's well admitted to by even Jorge that Colby Covington would give him work in the wrestling room. So that fight went down as expected. It was a perfectly set up matchup for Colby Covington. And as we've seen in his title fight with Leon Edwards, it was an absolute disappointment of a performance. Say what you want about your foot being broken. Michael Bisping won a world championship with one eye. And yeah, that might not hurt the same as a broken foot, but there are people who have won world title bouts with plenty of broken hands, broken ribs, and all sorts of messed up stuff. And to put on the lackadaisical performance that he did in that Leon Edwards fight, I truly believe it was some sort of humiliation ritual. He simply had zero aggression throughout that fight. I'll give him credit for the Kamaru Usman fights. The first fight was an absolute back and forth war. Kamaru Usman really showed how unseasoned of a boxer he was, and more so just like a wrestler puncher sort of fighter. He simply out-toughed and out-punched Colby Covington at the end of the day. Colby Covington simply displayed in that fight that he doesn't have an elite level IQ. If you would think that he would work George St. Pierre, look at how Colby Covington lacks an ability to really mix up his strikes and his takedowns. Only when he's able to back his opponents up is he able to shoot on them and pressure them up against the fence and get them into those chain wrestling combinations. When he's going up against an immovable force like a Kamaru Usman or even a Leon Edwards, a striker that will establish their distance and stand their ground, with whether it be their jab or their long distance kicks, Colby Covington has a horrible time at setting up his takedowns and even more so setting up any sort of significant strikes on the feet. He got his most success in the Kamaru Usman fight from Kamaru Usman simply standing right in front of him. And if we look at his wins before he even got the Kamaru Usman fight, guys, it was against an absolutely out of his prime, washed Robbie Lawler. To be fair, he put on a great performance against Rafael dos Anjos, but this was at a time in the welterweight division when Rafael dos Anjos was fighting for interim belts. Yes, a former lightweight champion, but this was before the new day and age of welterweight, where you have guys with middleweight frames cutting down to welterweight. It is a completely different age in the welterweight division, and Kamaru Usman was really the first of that kind of the traditional middleweight physique cutting down to welterweight. And before Dos Anjos, Colby Covington put the work on Damian Maia. All of this is to say, Colby Covington has really just been a merchant of an aging welterweight division, and he's stuck in the 2017-2019 era of welterweight. When he's faced the modern day welterweights like a Kamaru Usman, like a Leon Edwards, he gets outclassed at the end of the day, and he's shown that he's a level below. So maybe at one point in time after the first Kamaru Usman fight, we could have said that Colby Covington was the second best welterweight in the world, but that time has come and far, far gone. That fight happened in 2019. It's 2024 now, and we have the larger, rangier welterweights coming up the division. So, who is Colby Covington supposed to fight next? He's talked all this shit with Ian Gary, but Ian Gary has now come out and said that he's looking to fight anybody, so they might be aiming for a Michael Venom Page bout. The way the welterweight division is working itself out right now, you have Kamaru Usman, who is ranked as the #1 contender. I believe that Kamaru Usman is taking some time off to really grow into a middleweight, and he's soon going to go up and challenge for the top middleweight ranks because he has the confidence from already beating Sean Strickland, and I'm sure he is not intimidated by Dricus du Plessis. You then have Belal Muhammad as the number 2 ranked contender. Of course, he is now fighting Leon Edwards for the belt. Number 3, you have Shavkat Rakhmonov, Colby Covington, number 4, and Jack Della Maddalena, number 5. Gilbert Burns is number 6, and Machado Gary is number 7. Out of Gary, JDM, and Rakhmonov, 2 of them are going to fight, and the winner is going to fight for the belt. I think Rakhmonov is pretty much a guarantee to be the A side of that title contender matchup. So whether it's Maddalena or Gary getting the shit end of the stick and getting left out, they are going to be forced into a Colby Covington matchup. If that does not work out, though, you can always go with Joaquin Buckley. Joaquin Buckley is doing the best out of anybody in the welterweight division right now to really make a name for himself in the media outside of just his post-fight interviews. He's always making noise on social media, and you could tell that he takes the marketing aspects of his career very seriously. So if you want a loudmouth Colby Covington who only has a few good fights left in him to go against somebody who's going to make it an even bigger WWE style type of show, then give him to Joaquin Numansa Buckley. After his dominant performance against Nursultan Ruziboyev and Vicente Luque, Joaquin Buckley is ready to main event, and he's getting the grassroots hardcore fans behind him. So I think he would be an absolutely perfect matchup for Colby Covington. It really will test if Joaquin Buckley can hang with the top grapplers in the welterweight division. Do I think they're more dangerous grapplers than Colby Covington? Absolutely. But it will be a very good test to see if Joaquin Buckley is susceptible to that sort of pressure style wrestling that Colby Covington always threatens you with. Either way, if he fights Buckley, Rakhmonov, JDM, Belal Muhammad, I think Colby Covington takes L's to all of these guys. He's known to be not that big of a welterweight, and that sort of size is getting weeded out of the top ranks. Not only is that small frame being weeded out of the top ranks, as we see with Gilbert Burns, but the skills of the new welterweights have caught up and surpassed the welterweights of the pre-2020 era. And Colby Covington is simply a fish out of water at this point, and it's only a matter of time until he retires. That's why he has to say something about his opponent's dead dad to get people to care about his fights, because we all know deep down that he's just doing this for a paycheck. So in my head, Colby Covington is already retired. Can he still put on some entertaining matchups? Sure, but all Colby Covington's fights from now on, much like Jorge Masvidal in the later end of his career, we just know that these are going to be fights meant for entertainment's sake. They are not fights that actually give us anything to learn about the welterweight division, unless he's being used as some sort of gatekeeper against an up-and-comer like a Joaquin Buckley. The main problem with Colby Covington, though, is that he's always looking to fight the top competition. But at the end of the day, he can't escape these up-and-coming welterweights anymore because they are the top competition. He's surrounded by the young sharks, and it's only a matter of time until he gets eaten up. But yeah, guys, I hope you guys like this video. If you could like and comment on the video, I would sincerely appreciate it. It really helps out the channel's algorithm to show it to more people. So for all of you guys that have been doing that, I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. BettrMMA, always giving you the BettrMMA takes. We out. Peace.